Hello everybody and welcome to Station 9, titled The Jefferson Era. Our key words at this station are Marbury versus Madison, Louisiana Purchase, Sacagawea, Embargo, and War of 1812, and Tecumseh. Okay, now Jefferson Era, this is the period of time in which Thomas Jefferson was President of the United States. Okay, that's why it's called the Jefferson Era. Okay. Right when Jefferson's era or Jefferson's presidency started, it started off with some controversy because John Adams was president before Thomas Jefferson, because Jefferson was the third president and John Adams was the second. Okay, and so what did the court determine in Marbury versus Madison? Okay, so Marbury versus Madison was a court case between Marbury and James Madison. Okay, so John Marbury and James Madison. And basically what happened is that Marbury was told that he was going to be a Supreme Court judge by John Adams, but John Adams made him a judge so that when Thomas Jefferson showed up, he didn't have as much authority in the court. Okay, so basically John Adams is like passing off all these papers about judges the midnight or the night before Thomas Jefferson becomes president. So he's like just putting all these judges in the courts so that it can undermine Jefferson's authority. Okay, so anyway, so what happens is that Marbury goes to court with Madison, and what happens in the court case is that they say that what John Adams did on that midnight before was wrong, and the Supreme Court said that Marbury does not get a job. Okay, so he does not get that Supreme Court job. That's what they determined. But more importantly, in Marbury versus Madison, they decided, or they made a case that the Supreme Court has this power called judicial review. Okay, judicial review is the idea that the Supreme Court, and only the Supreme Court, can say if a law is constitutional or not. Okay, so in Marbury versus Madison, they decided that the Supreme Court has the power to decide if a law goes with the Constitution or if it goes against the Constitution. Okay, Marbury versus Madison, complicated, but remember, judicial review is what you need to know about that. Okay, Louisiana Purchase. Okay, so Louisiana Purchase is important. Thomas Jefferson, in 1803, he wanted to expand the country. Okay, so he goes in, he takes a deal from France. Okay, he buys Louisiana Purchase from France for a very, very low sum. Okay, he does a very, very good job. Okay, he buys all of this land. Now, why is it significant? It's significant because it doubles the size of the country. Okay, so when they buy all this land from France, okay, Thomas Jefferson, he has to figure out what's even out there, because nobody really knows what is out in this wide range of wilderness. Okay, so he hires a couple guys. He hires Lewis and Clark to go out there. Lewis and Clark, they go out and they explore the West. They try to find a Northwest Passage to Oregon. Okay, a big long river. They never find the river. Okay, but they do have a guide. Okay, and this girl is very, very important to helping Lewis and Clark find stuff in the West, and her name is Sacagawea. Okay, so Lewis and Clark's guy's name is Sacagawea. In the early 2000s, we have a dollar with her face on it, the Sacagawea dollar. It's a coin dollar. It's not a paper dollar. But yeah, so Sacagawea is Lewis and Clark's guide to the West. And Sacagawea is spelled Sacagawea. Okay, next one. So while all this is going on, we start getting ready for the War of 1812. The War of 1812 all starts when these people in the Congress called Hawks, the War Hawks, they start to get angry at Britain again, and so they place an embargo on Britain. Okay, the Embargo Act was when the United States, in order to be angry towards the British, in order to do something to the British, they placed an embargo on the British. But it turns out that we need the British a lot. It turns out that the British need us a lot more than, or it turns out that we needed the British a lot more than the British needed us. Okay, so the Embargo Act turns out to be a failure. Remember, an embargo is something that stops trade. So the Embargo Act stopped trade with the British. Okay, now the Embargo Act started the War of 1812. The War of 1812 was between the British and the Americans for some minor territory gains. It was actually, besides when the British burned down the White House, it was fairly uneventful, but it's still important in the scheme of things. Okay, one of the most important people during the war was a Native American named Tecumseh. Okay, this is a picture of Tecumseh. Tecumseh was from the Midwest, and he was a Native American leader who was anti-America. Okay, and he wasn't necessarily against American ideas. He was more against Americans moving out to the West, because when he was a child, his mother was killed by a group of settlers in the West, so white settlers. So he did not like that idea, and America was afraid of him because he was, anti-America. That's one reason they were afraid of him, and they were also afraid of him because he was backed by they thought that he was backed by the British, that the British were funding Tecumseh to cause problems. All right, now who won the War of 1812? It was insignificant in military terms. It was a small war. It turned out to be a draw. Okay, no single country won the War of 1812, and it turned out to be a draw. Okay, so that's the Jefferson Era. Make sure you go down to the bottom and watch the bonus video, and thank you very much.